Hibachi 2007 back at you with another one. We've got new Night Court, and we're going to watch a little bit of this trailer and see if we can detect any woke or even just bad reboot. Let's see.
So, who here is lying? Oh, I like the neckline on that one. Olivia Moore? This is Dan Fielding.
Oh, wow. Of all the days to leave my selfie stick at home.
You can always use that stick up your ass.
Who threw the first punch?
You did! Cut it out!
Cut it out! Permission to approach.
Denied.
Permission to lean?
My dad, Harry Stone, underneath.
You're the judge. Don't go!
That's my court, baby.
These walls could talk. They'd say, they're all guilty.
All right, well, there's some of it. We can see what it's going to be. There was one real good joke in there I thought about the selfie stick. The rest of it, and I did watch the rest of it. This is a couple of funny. This is the unfunny part. That's just stupid. Like you can actually walk through the glass without just smashing your head up against it. So that's not good comedy. I'm like, what are we doing now? Slapstick? Is that what they're trying to turn Night Court into? That's not what we're trying to see as people who are interested in the original Night Court, if you may have watched it. As far as wokeness, I'm not sure about that. We can't tell too much from this initial trailer. Nothing that stands out too big, but I do see a couple of problems. But before we get into that, can you subscribe to the channel? But most importantly, hit me with a like to push this through the algorithm. Like this real quick, and we're going to get right back to the program. So we can't altogether tell that it's woke, but we have some things that we can key in on. First, the main character, which before it was Judge Harry Stone, who was played by Harry Anderson, was the male judge. And now in this series, this lady from Big Bang Theory is now taking his place as the main character, as the judge on the bench, even though this is a continuation of the previous and not necessarily a retelling of the same story. So it's not replacing the same character, but the position is getting replaced with a gender swap.
My name is Abby Stone. Used to work with my dad.
So now she's going to be the judge coming in as Harry Stone's daughter. And somehow she got the same appointment to the same bench that he did. Because that happens in real life. Yeah. You grow up and you inherit a job from your parents' job. Yeah, that happens. Other than owning a business, you can inherit a business. Never heard of inheriting a job, especially was either an elected position or a government appointed position. So we have that. Some other things that we can look at. There is this lady in there who's playing the cop, the security guard at the court.
Permission to approach.
Okay, so we get a big rotunda black woman with gold hair yelling at people. Not exactly what we're trying to see, but anyway, the hair is just kind of out there for me. This black woman with this blonde hair, especially the dark hair, this is just not a good look. This is kind of the
permission to approach.
Yeah, that's great. You got a black woman yelling. Don't love that. Now we had Marsha Warfield, who played one of the two court officers in the previous show, and we can see that she was pretty butch. She was end up being a lesbian. She said she's got this cut here with the lines in the side of her head. It's like she should be in the group Troop. Spread my wings and fly away. She even went just full butch later in her career, so we can see here that's where she went with it. So that's not so much of a divergence, even though you could see that as some wokeness or leaning in that direction, but it's the same as before in that case, or more or less. Even though Marsha Warfield was really funny, who knows what kind of humor we're going to get with this lady. She's just yelling at people. Marsha Warfield was actually funny. She was kind of in command, strong person, not just big black woman yells. All right, so now John Larroquette is returning. Now that seems great, right? John Larroquette, who played Dan Fielding. He was one of the lawyers appearing in the court. And even though Harry was as the judge, was the main character of the show, who the show was designed around, he really stole the show on the show. And he even won an Emmy for this role. And so half of his stick was that he was smart and arrogant and smug. He thought he was the smartest guy in the room, and I guess came from kind of a high class background, but somehow ended up doing night court as a lawyer, which is bottom of the barrel. But the other half of it was his kind of old school thinking about women and his commentary about them, both him being a womanizer, but also just think women should be in their place or whatever. And that was funny because it was out of place. Even then, it was considered out of place. But let's read what we have here. Okay, but he was intrigued by the prospect of exploring how Dan Fielding had changed. And maybe even had grown since we last saw him. How often does an actor get a chance to revisit some of the characters that he played 3.5 decades ago? Almost every single week. There's a new reboot of that. That's not special anymore. But okay, let's go down here and see how he's changed. Times have changed. This is well, Larroquette's not speaking. It's not in quotes. It says times have changed, of course, and Larroquette concedes that some of our humor that Dan Fielding presented in the 1980s may not be funny today. Oh boy. He was a notorious womanizer and chauvinist for one thing. Yeah, it would still be funny today. It's still as funny today as it was when he said it then. He still thinks he's the smartest person in the room, but he doesn't have the hunger of a young Dan Fielding had. We don't care. We don't want a nicer, weaker old man, nicer, weaker, woker Dan Fields. The charm of kind of that show. This was kind of a little bit of a more cutting edge show with more cutting edge and adult humor as juxtaposition to a lot of the family sitcoms that had dominated television since the beginning of television up until about that time. And then at that time, the landscape was dominated by Growing Pains and The Cosby Show and Who's the Boss. And those are great shows, and family comedies are great too. It's not an either or, at least not for me. But this show and maybe Cheers and some others were kind of coming on the scene in the mid to late 80s and early 90s and bringing a different flair, adding some adult humor, and adding some a little bit more risque humor. And part of what was so funny about John Larroquette and why he won the Emmy is because his characters ideals and thoughts and what they were saying, what he was saying was out of place even then. So uh, his kind of thing about women, not being or whatever he thought about them, his kind of chauvinistic attitude, that was the joke. You don't need to remove it because people can't hear anything that doesn't lift them up and validate them anymore. That's just crazy. So that's already seeming like a problem there. So there's one more thing we want to look at and what the fans who have watched the show are thinking about it so far. So this comes from Looper.
On the new Night Court. According to critics and fans of the original series, watching it is a pretty hard time. No.
And that's what I'm seeing everywhere from people who have gotten an opportunity to start watching. So let's see here real quickly. You can get this more centered in the screen. This is Rotten Tomatoes. This reboot is not funny at all. Like the original Night Court, the supporting cast is absolutely horrible. No chemistry at all. Way too much canned laughter. I made a point about this in my video about the new what is that new show called? I made it about the new reboot of uh, that '90s show. So here, that '90s show, episode two problems. That's my main issue with that show in episode two is the ridiculous canned laughter and how often they use it with this constant quipping. Every line is a quip from somebody that's supposed to be funny, and they have to play fake laughter because it's not that funny. It's not necessary, and that seems to be a hallmark of current comedy writing, and it's bad. It's a problem. It kind of eased up in episode three of that '90s show. Hopefully, it'll continue as I watch more episodes, and hopefully, the same thing can be true here. It says it's awful. It's not funny. There's no emotional connection to the original series, despite their desperate attempts to beat viewers over the head to establish and reinforce the connection to the original show. And this person thinks it's awesome. So excited being born in 1974, watching Night Court and Cheers. So that's another one that's kind of fallen in line with it. Dan Fielding, still hilarious. Okay, we'll see. Says, not as good as the original Night Court's first two episodes, stale like bread, not that funny. I got through 15 minutes of the first episode and I said, I'm out of here. I didn't even have one chuckle and thought it was also so cliche and the canned laughter was annoying. There goes that again. They really got to stop at that crap. I don't understand how they think that's interesting or entertaining. We're going to get out of here with this one. Hit me with a like, subscribe, help push me through the algorithm by liking this. You're watching 2007. I'm out.